Video game marketing is pretty damn bare bones and simple. Hey, I might like that thing you showed me. Hey, I bought that thing. And sure, maybe a few years or fucking minutes down the line, you start thinking, uh-oh, oh no, something's a little bit off here, something's a little bit fucking wonky. That doesn't matter anymore. You already said yes to the dress, bitch. Some intangible thing implanted itself into your mind, coercing you to make that $60+ commitment. And sure, there's tons of behind the scenes bullshit going on here. So much manpower and money invested into researching this stuff, just to convey something that enticed your goofy gamer ass to react the way you did. In the end, all that intricate inner workings doesn't really matter to us because that isn't what gets us to the dance in the first place. And I'm not here to dissect something that doesn't need dissecting. I kind of feel that defeats the purpose of how simplistic and accessible the methods of their marketing madness can be. $2.99. Now, before I even get into all that, I kind of feel obligated to address a game that just recently snuck its way into people's homes.
Okay.
It's first announced at CD Projekt Red Group Summer Conference via a fucking PowerPoint.
And no, it's not a Smurf game.
Probably shouldn't have drank while doing this because I'm all fucking burpy. First trailer airs 2013, E3 2018 while still piping hot off that Witcher 3 hype. We get another trailer, so get a good bit of buzz going, but that's really it. E3 2019, however, the whole damn world was fucking hooting and hollering Cyberpunk 2077 everywhere. Twitter, Reddit, that weird fucking waiting room that all orthodontists and dentist offices had with like CRTVs and N64s. It was buzzing so hard it couldn't be unbuzzed. And come December 10th, 2020, the game's released. People couldn't be happier and definitely aren't overreacting or too upset. It's all fine and fucking dandy. I don't have a dog in this Cyberpunk fight. I have zero personal stake in Project Red, or I'd never played the Witcher series, so I don't really have too much of an informed opinion on how any of that stuff is going. So what's the point of bringing this up? For one, the whole damn world is harping over a game they had ridiculously high expectations for that, I don't know, maybe those expectations weren't ever going to be met with the sort of hype this fucking game has. It's one of the biggest games ever right now. What could be the reason? Something had to have created this weird ass obsession. It wasn't just spontaneous. I mean, they've apparently already dedicated $100 million into marketing alone for this game. It's not an accident. What was all that damn money for? What could have possibly been the crux of their marketing tactics?
It was free pizza! Free fucking pizza!
It was fucking Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves sold this game. What I'm really interested in is all the different ways companies have been selling us games over the years. In other words, what are all the other Keanus out there? First Keanu that comes to mind is the video game commercial, i.e. the TV Man's gameplay trailer. These really were the first point of contact for the majority of people. I mean, here's a scenario. Chunky ass kid sitting on my couch, sweating in my underwear. What's the easiest way to reel me in? Just flash a bunch of colors in my face, feed the damn game to me. A lot of times these ads just consisted of some gruff, disembodied voice explaining what was popping in the game and proceeding to take a shit all over the competitor. Subtlety at this early stage wasn't necessary. It obviously had an effect on many. I mean, hit me with a "now you're playing with power," punctuate it with a... The catch here is that these commercials usually chased one main goal: to sell consoles. The game itself served as an invitation to get you to the dance in the form of purchasing a clunky-ass piece of machinery that allowed you to experience the game. Plus, back in the 80s and 90s, there weren't many surefire ways to demonstrate everything a game had to offer, especially if you needed to present this to children in a way that was effective and easy enough to understand, because, at least for the time being, that's the target demographic here. And there's only so much you could fit into a 30-second time slot, so between your narration and your get-ins or get-outs, there wasn't a ton of video game to digest. Obviously, you have your standouts. I mean, the Crash commercials were great, and the N64 Super Smash Bros. Commercial is probably one of the best commercials I've ever seen. But the need to show off your hardware was still very much a priority. Not much has changed in this regard, but a more cinematic approach to commercials or trailers, because that's what we're talking about here. They're not commercials anymore. They've definitely become a mainstay, and again, developers start to recognize that a trailer's main function really is to just call your attention to the game, to get your eyes on it. But let's take a step back. I get me a PlayStation for Christmas, but I got no game. I saw all the commercials, but I got no game. There's a whole ass catalog of games on the back of the box, but Xbox don't
ain't got games. It ain't got games.
Guess what? It's Big Boy's lucky day. Turns out Sony hooked little old me with a game on the house. Interactive sampler disc. It doesn't sound cool, but let's boot this bad boy up. What do you know? Games galore, baby. I pick one. It's Tekken 2. FMV tough boys and girls. Not bad. Arcade mode. Wait. One boy and one girl. Well, I wanted to play as the leopard guy in suit, but I'll pick the dude now, and I'll pick the girl when my cousins aren't around to cyberbully me in 3D. So I'm in. I'm fighting. I win. And that's it. There's nothing else to do, apparently. I'm burpy, baby. It's all I can do. Just keep fighting the same people over and over and not really progress anywhere. It'd take until my uncle had to explain exactly what a demo was to me, because as a kid, it's hard to grasp the reason why I'm getting blue-balled here. I eventually found myself very fond of these so-called demo discs. I used to just pack my room with monthly issues of PlayStation magazines just to stockpile the demo discs. And these demos didn't just serve as a way to briefly play the game for yourself. You had developers dropping strategies for their already out games, interviews, behind-the-scenes shit, trailers. You had fucking trailers on these. Guess what? Primetime advertising, you're a bitch, fight me, signed demo disc. I mean, experiencing Shenmue is such an important part of my life that probably would have just passed me by if not for the trailer that came with my Dreamcast demo disc. You start to see inklings at this point of a still growing community. I don't know, I honestly think demos were such a perfect marketing tool. Remember how I mentioned the difficulty explaining the gameplay to chubby ass kids? Well, forget it. Just play the shit. Just a taste. Just enough to make them say, alright, I've played 15 increments of Mr. Mosquito like 300 times. I might as well buy this bitch. Which is crazy to think about now. Today, alphas and betas are such a regular thing, nearly hours of contents at times. I remember when the Final Fantasy 15 demo came out, I spent all day on it. Which, like, isn't indicative of how I feel about that game, but demos might be the only thing in this video that have evolved into something much more interactive. The goofy gamer bitch today is so savvy to the game development process that you're now put into a position that isn't just granted access to try the game before its release. You've become a pivotal part of the game-making process that now informs the developer about ways they can enhance their unfinished project. I mean, community patches for games can be absolutely crucial to its success. I mentioned magazines briefly, and there isn't too much being offered here that the demos didn't already have covered, minus gameplay obviously. You still got your interviews, the behind the scenes shenanigans and strategies, but all packed nicely into these little booklets you can just kind of explore at your own pace and wherever you want. You didn't need the system to play the fucking magazine. Aside from that, I just bring these things to school to show off my propensity for higher learning to my friends, and eventually have it taken by the teacher when they'd catch a glimpse at an unfortunately placed polygonal titty. But alright, it's time to pick up my game. I drive to my local Kmart or Walmart or Camimart. I walk to the game section with my dad, aka Big B, and there she is, the wall of games. It used to be something so unique about the presentation, that immaculately arranged wall of games contrasting artworks against one another. I fondly remember the anticipation of having to wait for Mr. Big Stuff with the keys to come unlock that damn glass cage to get my game. If I didn't already have an idea for what I wanted at this point, I just gotta go with my gut. Which of these bad boys are coming home with me? For situations like these, developers just had to put their trust into your game's box art. Yoshi's Island, Final Fantasy VII, Mega Man X, all these games I purchased based solely on the box art. Hell, I can remember buying games that were absolutely dog-ass just because I was fooled by the killer art. And like I said with the commercials about being the first point of contact, box art is the absolute laugh. And it's gotta be a lot of pressure on artists back then to create something that appeals to a broad audience enough that they're willing to make a snap judgment based off your work. Some of these places even had conveniently placed kiosks with demos for games behind that glass gate. So if you aren't feeling especially intuitive, fucking hell, go ahead and wait behind 6 other kids to have a crack at it yourself. These last couple aren't really based on any internal workings of video game marketeers, more so personal experiences that I feel remiss if they weren't mentioned. I'll call these unintended side effects of making a game that doesn't suck ass. So I pick up the bouncer for PS2 at my local Funko Land with Big B again, because, I don't know, it looks cool. He's got a collar on. Hold on, fatty, Mr. Funko interrupt. You don't want that. It sucks ass cheek. My dad says, well, what do you recommend? Mr. Bouncer sucks ass proceeds to unveil a copy of GTA 3. Says they just got it in. I'm hesitant, but the question of whether I was old enough to play this game or not definitely sparked my, oh, I can be bad boy train of thought. So I say, sure, I'll get it. And whoever played GTA 3 for that first time back in 2001 understands what a fucking roller coaster of experience that game was. Just all the shit you can do. And like, it was all due to the humble little Funkoland employee just trying to give me a better option. This interaction's always kind of stuck with me because it's not something I've ever experienced since. Funkoland and EB Games eventually shit the bed, and this GameStop, Walmart, and Best Buy are really the only in-store outlets that offer physical copies of games anymore. And people don't fucking even want physical copies anymore. But I can guarantee you employees totally relevant to how dog-ass and impersonal it must be at these places won't have that same repertoire with their customers. GameStop just wants you to buy their shit and get out. But not before they badger you about their power-up membership and maybe you want a warranty on that fucking PS4 controller. Thanks, but no thanks, Paul, this 17-year-old store manager. I'm saying this a little unashamedly, and I didn't want to say it the whole video, but, quote, back in the day, unquote, game stores harbored a mentality akin to that of your local family-owned restaurant. You kind of had to build a trust or any sort of a relationship with your customer base because chances are this is the only outlet in a small town for that kind of thing. It's just kind of where the gaming community really sort of cultivated too. I can remember the EB Games down the street from my house hosting Halo LAN parties and lock-ins, but that trust meant I could take his or her or them's word on what I was getting was going to be good because, I mean, they gave me GTA 3 already, and they had nothing to gain from recommending me something bad. Not to mention, I'd assume they'd want you to come back. They gotta at least want to stay in business. The last thing is maybe the one that had the biggest effect on me, so thus, it's the most personal. And that's my friends. Sleepless nights over at my best bud's house is spent a whole summer on Resident Evil 5 of Lawrence's kids wrapped in my house every goddamn weekend. Traversing San Andreas with Trayvon trying to find the Sasquatch. These memories served as the most reliable endorsements of so many games throughout my childhood. Even still today, it's the basis for what new game I'm going to buy is more than likely what my friends are playing at the moment. Accessibility for me has kind of been a little more of a hindrance than a convenience. Thousands of announcements with raving or fucking scathing reviews that have just barely touched the ground. There's really no room for a game to breathe. And I'm not trying to undermine independent content creators who dedicate their time to voicing their own opinions on this stuff. I think for the most part, they do a good job of offering a perspective that at least isn't completely aligned with major publications. It's just that I'm always going to value what my friends say over, I don't know, people I don't have any real personal connection with. I think maybe I'm just reminiscing on the way things used to be because a lot of these things just aren't real options for selling a game anymore. I'm not so much lamenting that fact. I do think things have changed for the better. The access we have now to every bit of information means that uncertainty over a game's release just doesn't exist, when all your anxiety can be remedied with a simple Google search. But I'd be absolutely lying if I said I didn't miss the mystique that specific uncertainty brought. Will there ever be a Final Fantasy VII remake? Is Kingdom Hearts a real game? I mean, there's pictures of fucking a spiky-haired dude sitting on a log with Winnie the Pooh. Where's the fucking Sasquatch in San Andreas?